I'm sure everyone realizes the vital part the blowout preventer plays in the drilling operation. So it goes without saying that an important link in the BOP's operation is the hose bundles. What we'll be looking at is the Multiflex hose, but all the procedures laid out in this program can be applied to any Kevlar wrapped hoses you may have. The bundle consists of 37 3/16-inch hoses wrapped around a 1-inch hose. The individual hoses consist of a material called Kevlar, which is braided over a nylon hose. Kevlar is the same material used in bulletproof vests. The hoses get a protective polyurethane coating. The hoses are then held together with a mylar tape. And finally, the entire bundle gets a coating of polyurethane. Now let's take a look at the fittings that are attached to the hoses. This is a carbon steel fitting. Basically, there's no maintenance involved with these fittings, but one thing you'll need to keep a close eye out for is corrosion. Once these fittings become corroded, it's time to disconnect them, throw them away, and re-terminate the hoses with new fittings. One thing you might want to do here is use anodes like these, here and here. This will help minimize the buildup of corrosion. Next are stainless steel fittings. Along with carbon steel fittings, these are the most popular. Everyone knows about stainless steel. It's a good, strong metal that'll stand up better under the elements than carbon steel. The major drawback with these types of fittings is the cost. They're expensive. That leaves us with fittings made of Monel. These will stand up under rough conditions for quite some time. They're for long-term use, mainly for subsea production. As you might expect, these are the most expensive of all three types of fittings, but that's because they're so durable. Now let's talk about the importance of installing a fitting with the correct specifications for a certain hose. It's obvious that a 1/4-inch fitting should not be used on a 3/16-inch hose. But you see, Multiflex, Synflex, and the other manufacturers all use different specifications for the same size fitting. Non-Multiflex fittings should be used on Multiflex hose only as a last resort, like if the rig would be shut down if they weren't used. Then, as soon as the Multiflex fittings arrive, replace the temporary ones with the Multiflex fittings. We're not out of the woods yet. Now, dies and a pusher, if you're going to swedge, have to be matched to the hose and the fitting. A little later, I'll show you what could happen if they don't match perfectly. So you say, where do I find all this information? Well, the fitting information is in this Multiflex chart, and the die and pusher information is found in this manual. Before going to them, you're going to need the number that's printed on the hose. You're going to need to know which material type fitting you're going to be using, and you need to know if you're going to be crimping or swedging. When you've got this information, go to the chart in the manual and find the number of the hose you're using. Now, follow that line to find the correct part numbers for the fittings, the insertion length, and the outside fitting diameter for crimping. The die and pusher information can be found in the individual Multiflex crimp and swedge manuals. Prior to crimping, the machine must be set up for the particular fitting you're using. There are 2 steps for this. Both require crimping test fittings. So, of course, you need to insert the dies before you begin the setup. You'll notice that half the dies have a small hole in them. When placing the dies in the machine, alternate between the marked and the unmarked dies. Only the backside of the die is lubricated, the side that rests against the wall of the machine. Each die is greased. They are then put into position. And when you're done, the dies should look like this. Now you're ready to begin the setup procedures. First, a screwdriver is used to adjust this plate. By the way, the dies were removed only so you could see this better. This plate determines the crimp length. The correct crimping length is reached by trial and error. Insert the hose and barely crimp the fitting. Now remove the fitting and check to see that it is crimped to the correct length. If it is not, adjust the plate up to increase the crimp length and adjust the plate down to decrease it. After the adjustment, re-crimp the fitting until the proper crimp length has been reached, in this case .843 inches with 5/1000ths of an inch leeway. This fitting measures .844 and it's good to go. The next step is the adjustment of the thimble. When adjusted properly, the thimble lets the operator know when the correct OD, outside diameter, has been reached. When this center pin is flush with thimble surface, the operator stops the machine. The OD, outside diameter, should be correct within 5/1000ths of an inch. If it isn't, adjust the thimble by tightening or loosening it, and recrimp the fitting until the correct diameter is reached. Now, each time a fitting is crimped, the crimp length and the OD should be correct, but check each crimp fitting anyway. A micrometer like this one should be used. Okay, now let's go over the crimping procedure. First, you have to make sure that there is a clean, flat cut on the hose. Then, mark a line at the crimp depth. And slide on the fitting to that line. Pretty difficult so far, huh? Now, just put the hose into the machine, turn it on, and wait till the pin is flush with the thimble. Now, release the button. And that's all there is to it. Since we have that procedure out of the way, let's take a look at how to swedge. The procedure for swedging is similar to that of crimping in many ways. First, you need to make sure that you have a nice, even, flat cut on the hose. Then, measure the swedged length on the hose and slip the fitting on up to the line. Once that's done, get the pusher and put it in place. Now we get the swedging dies ready. You need to lubricate the inside of the die so the fitting slides into place easily. If you're using the wrong size dies, or if they don't have enough grease on them, this is what can happen to your fitting. Now what are you going to do with a fitting that looks like that? When both of the dies are well greased, place one into position on the swedger, slide the hose with the fitting on it into position, making sure that it fits snugly into the pusher. Then put the other die in. Pull the lever down, and in a few seconds, you'll have your swedged connection. The procedure we just showed you is for an electric-powered swedge tool. There is another type which is known as a hand swedge tool. One thing you should be aware of is this arm brace. If it's not in the correct position, well, it's going to take a while to get this fitting swedged. You set this up the same way you did the power swedger. Set the pusher in place, put in one grease die, slip the hose and fitting into the pusher, and put the other die in place. There are these die clamps to hold the dies in position. Once you've set up your hand swedge tool, you'll need to grab a 1.5-inch wrench and with your foot or knee on the arm brace, turn the nut on top to swedge the fitting. Now that you have the fitting on the hose, you'll need to attach it to the stack, the RBQ plate, or whatever you need to attach it to. See here? He's getting the fitting on all right, but you see how the hose is turning as he's turning the fitting? With that kind of twisting in a line, you stand a good chance of getting a kink or causing the core tube to twist and collapse. This is how you should attach a fitting. See, use 2 wrenches, one on the set nut to hold it and the hose in a stationary position, and the other to tighten the fitting. Now on to something a little more difficult. Let's say you want to lengthen the hose bundle because the hose isn't long enough for the job you're going to be doing. Here, you'll need to splice 2 bundles together. Here are the tools you're going to need: a razor cutter, a screwdriver, and a hose bundle cutting knife. First, you've got to get the sheathing out of the way. So get your hose bundle cutting knife, and cut the sheathing back about 10 or 15 feet at each end of the two bundles that are going to be spliced together. If you recall, early in the program, we mentioned Mylar, the cellophane tape that the hose bundle is wrapped in. This is where it plays its major role. If the Mylar were not wrapped around the hose bundle, the melted polyurethane resin being applied to the bundle would get between the hoses, therefore making it rather difficult to repair any of the hoses. You always start on the inside and work your way out. So first, the 1-inch hose is joined using the same method as the 3/16-inch hoses, and since there are many more of the smaller hoses, I'll show you in detail how to join them. First, you have to cut the hoses to the appropriate length. We'll be staggering the hoses so the connections are about 6 inches apart. You can crimp or swedge the fittings. The choice is up to you. In this case, they're crimping. You can see that in some areas of the rig, this would be a problem because of limited space. When the hoses are fitted, it's time to join them with a union, like this one. Attach it to one of the fittings, like this. Now add enough heat shrink to cover the entire connection. The heat shrink will help prevent corrosion. Now connect the other fitting to the union. Remember to use 2 wrenches so the hoses won't twist or kink. With that done, repeat the procedure until all the hoses are joined. Now, use a heat gun to activate the heat shrink. It's important that you don't use too much heat. This will cause overshrinkage and cracking. Remove the heat source when the heat shrink is tightly molded to the connection. When you've finished, the staggered hoses should look something like this. Each union should be about 6 inches from the one laying next to it. Now that the splice is complete, wrap the bundle with Mylar tape. Then the polyurethane covering needs to go on. You do this by using a repair jacket. Tape the covering securely, then clean it with a cleaning solution. Don't use diesel fuel or any kind of oil-based solvent. They'll leave an oil film behind. Now overlap the portion of sheathing and tape them both down securely. Then apply this liquid polyurethane. It's a 2-part cure consisting of the basic polyurethane and the activator. You mix the two together to produce the adhesive that you apply right before you put on the repair jacket. Once the jacket is on, get some clamps to hold it securely in place. Put these stainless steel clamps every 8 to 12 inches or so. Then wrap the entire area with tape, being sure to overlap the tape at each end. We mentioned that the polyurethane applied to the hose bundle is a 2-part cure. You need to be very careful with this because once you mix the 2 parts together, it'll take about 4 hours to cure. So be sure not to mix the two until you're ready to use them. And if you have any left over, you might as well just throw it away because you're going to have a can with solid polyurethane in it, and it'll be no use to anyone. You also need to be aware of the fact that this 2-part cure has a short shelf life, so have it flown in after you have a problem. In the meantime, a few clamps should be able to secure the bundle. Another area of concern is the bend radius of the hose bundle. If you put too much of a bend on the hose, it's going to collapse. Well, that's where this thing comes in handy. It's a hose radius guard. What it does is prevent the hose from bending too much, therefore preventing it from getting kinks. It's a handy piece of equipment to have around. That's for the entire hose bundle. The other things you have to watch for are the individual hoses. Too much of a sharp bend on these and they'll collapse or kink. Then you'll be up to your neck in trouble. Make sure the hoses have a nice gradual bend to them so they don't cause you any problems. Here's something that shouldn't need to be mentioned. Detach the RBQ plate from the hose bundle reel whenever the bundle is being wound or unwound on the reel. I know this sounds obvious, but in a few instances this was not done, and all the fittings had to be re-terminated. You see, when the RBQ plate came around the reel support, something had to give. That's about it for hose bundles. Here's hoping your troubles with your hose bundles are few and far between.